The power of unlearning.
Yes.
People trying to focus too much on learning. What's the new? Let's unlearn the BS that we fed ourselves.
Yes.
Whether that was from parents. I mean, I'm not saying your parents are bad. They did it for their good intention. They thought that this was the way, and maybe they screwed you up.
And I tell people all the time, well, I ask the question, what's the first letter in the word belief?
B.
And what's the first letter in the word system?
S.
And most of our thoughts are nothing but BS. And until we remove these beliefs and replace them with new beliefs, everything will continue to remain the same.
Like, business blew up, and I was like, wow, it was that easy? All I had to do is just blame myself for everything. Whether something good happens, whether something bad happens, it's all my fault.
My greatest enemy is in me. And the key to mastery is to master me. I mean, that's the essential lesson that I think that we all have to learn at some point. In the entrepreneurial journey, to your point, you're blaming everything and everyone, and it's everyone else's fault. And then once you have that moment of truth to realize that nobody's going to fix these problems but me, no one's going to turn these things around but me, that's when things begin to shift and change.
In one meal that you have, it might have like 25 different countries that, different types of people that work for it. You don't even realize this is happening. And then, just like you said, if you want to step into entrepreneurship, it's a whole different world.
It is.
You're used to a monthly tranquilizer called a paycheck. Every single month, you're getting that paycheck. Now, you're gonna hunt. You're on your own.
One thing you said about comfort, which is really powerful, is that we're creatures of comfort, and most of us want to be comfortable. But comfort oftentimes leads to complacency. And for all of your viewers who are interested in transitioning out of a 9-to-5 into an entrepreneurial space, comfort can no longer exist. You really have to take on the Stoic mindset and put yourself voluntarily in discomfort, right? Uncomfortable situations that pull the best out of you, or that I embrace. There's something called the law of 33. 33% of the people in your life should be lower than you, because those are the ones who are looking up to you. They're inspired by you.
You help them out.
And you're there to mentor them and bring them up to where you are. 33% of the people in your life should be your positive reinforcing peers. They're on the same path, headed in the same direction. And then 33% of the people in your life should be 10x where you are. Those are the ones that you're inspired by. Those are the ones that you're trying to reach towards. And if you have them in that proportion, it always keeps you moving in a positive direction.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another podcast show. Today, I have a very special guest. Instead of me introducing him, he's going to introduce himself. So let's get to it.
Well, my name is Hassani Pedford, and my wife and I have a private practice that we're both co-founders of called Couples Academy. And really, we work with couples who have gone through infidelity, right? So we're infidelity recovery specialists, and we focus on affair recovery and divorce prevention, primarily for couples who have a lot at stake. They have finances, they have children, they have assets, they have businesses, ministries. And so when they suffer a financial blow, a relational blow, an emotional blow, they need somebody to come in to help them intervene through that process.
Wow, that's a very niche kind of thing there. So take us back, right? We'll definitely get to the business in a sec. Take us back. What, how did you even get started with a business like this? Or did you have another business in the past? Talk to us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, entrepreneurially, I was actually a African-American studies major at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And when I was a sophomore in college, I began a business, and I wanted to become a speaker and an author and travel the world. And so I was a student leader at the time. So I was representing students, but I was also teaching those students. And as a result of that, I was invited by other colleges and universities around the country to speak on the topics that I was speaking on. And in that period of time, I've spoken to around 300 colleges. I spoke on 300 different campuses, student leadership conferences. My area of expertise was relationships. And so I was talking to single people and people in relationships about what to do to have a healthy relationship as a young adult. And so I thought, because I was successfully single, that would translate into my marriage. And it was a completely different reality. And so I was hit with, the reality that things are significantly different. That typically there are 4 seasons to a successful relationship, right? You have the dating season, which is the process where you're getting to select who you want. Then you have the committed courtship season. That's the getting to know you phase. Then you have engagement, right? That's the season of preparation. And then you have marriage, which is the final frontier. Each season requires a different level of responsibility and expectations and commitment. And I was good up until the engagement season. But once I said I do and transition into marriage, that's when all hell broke loose because we have all of these ideas of what a successful relationship is supposed to look like. And it wasn't that for me. And so, as an entrepreneur, traveling the world and having my wife and my children at home, I didn't realize that time was one of the most critical elements that was needed to really have a healthy foundation for a relationship. And I think that 90% of couples who are in crisis, whether they realize it or not, one of the secret culprits that is destroying the foundation of their relationship is the lack of time. Most people have a time starved marriage. And so before I do, they spent their time together. They were having great conversations, going on dates. They spent every waking moment together. But then once you get married, now it's about business and bills and babies and extracurricular. And I got to go out with my friends and you have your hobbies. And the relationship is the last thing on the list of priorities. And so that's when the divide begins to happen. And so those are some of the things that I suffered early on in my journey. And so what we do today is a result of the crisis that we've gone through. We've taken our pain and turned it into purpose and now help other couples overcome what we struggle with.
Wow, amazing. I can definitely see what you're saying. Like, especially people who are entrepreneurs, right? They have money. They tend to have a bias towards like, all right, relationship, let me just throw some money here. Like, let's just, you know what I mean? Don't you see that like kind of happening pretty often? And then, but you're right. Like the time is worth so much more. And they forget like the time that you were spending before. Now it's not being spent. And you wonder why like the marriage is falling apart. Like it makes, it's not logical.
It's true because prior to marriage, everything's romantic, but
Yeah.
the nature and the atmosphere of your relational dynamic shifts and changes. And so I'm not getting the time, the attention, the affection that I once did. And so everyone wants to be seen, everyone wants to be heard. Every person desires to be desired. They want to be wanted. And so when that begins to shift because other things become the priority, because guess what? We have to pay these bills. We have to raise these kids. We have to fulfill these dreams. And the spouse is, second, third, or last on that list. And that's when the divide begins.
So that is like the main kind of like biggest domino that if you don't do the time part is what you were saying.
It's one of the
Okay.
biggest.
So let's get deeper into that. Like,
Yeah.
let's get really deep into this relationship side of things because I feel like a lot of people really screw this up. And honestly speaking, maybe selfishly speaking, I just got married, so maybe there's some things that on my end that I can like be aware of. Right now, everything's good, but I want to ensure that over the next year, decades, things continuously be where they need to be, right? So, what are some of like maybe the typical pitfalls or the typical things that most people overlook, but they're like the most important things?
Well, the five biggest issues that most couples struggle with, and I don't care what race, what ethnicity, what faith tradition, where they are globally around the world. These are the top five. Number one, and not in this particular order, finances, sex, family issues, which consist of either parenting or in laws, okay, roles and expectations, and then finally, communication. And what I would say is that because people do not have the ability to effectively communicate through certain things, all of the problems creep up in all the other previous four areas that I just mentioned.
Let's talk communication.
Okay.
Because, for example, like culturally speaking, I come from Pakistan, but I've grew up, in the U.S. So I've seen both sides. For me, communication isn't what we think is communication in America. Communication is it's behavior, it's actions. It's not words. We don't say I love you. We don't. Does that mean that we don't love that person? No, absolutely not. Like that doesn't mean that. We show that through our behaviors and through our actions. Whereas in America, man, I feel like it's like the opposite, right? The actions may not necessarily be there, generally speaking, but the words are amazing. Oh my God, it's like straight out of a Hollywood movie. You think like, oh my God, this person's perfect. The moment you call on them, sometimes the phone doesn't pick up on the other side. Whereas in the other case, in our region, generally speaking, again, you're never gonna hear any sort of words of affirmation, for example. But the moment something messes up, they're the first in line to be there to help whatever needs to be done. So kind of like my question to you is there's different levels and different forms of communication. How do you kind of like balance and how do you know what's yours? Because a lot of people don't even know what their way of
Yeah.
communication is and the other person, and you got to like match it up. And, this person's think, oh, this person doesn't love me, but they do. And it just becomes this weird domino effect that just like messes it all up.
I think it's quite interesting that you said communication is more than words. Interestingly enough, when you look at the three components of communication, words are 7% of your communication,
Yeah.
what you say. But then tonality, how you say what you say, is 23%.
Okay.
Okay. Body language, which is facial expressions, dispositions, your gestures, your energy, 70% of your communication. So if we look at these numbers, 93% represent your messaging, your tone, and your body language. 7% represent the words. So oftentimes our messaging compromises the message, and that's why it's hard for our spouse to receive it. Now, you brought up something interesting. You said, culturally speaking, certain cultures operate in behavior, others operate in word, right? And so there's a disconnect. So what we have to do is connect the dots here. One of the things that we always say is that you have to embrace the twins. What are the twins? You have the ability to articulate and you have to have the ability to demonstrate. Articulation, hey, I love you, but there's no demonstration of it, won't be believed. Demonstration, things that I do because I love you may not be received or acknowledged because it wasn't articulated. And so when you combine those two, the messaging is received because they can now connect the dots. Okay, my spouse is hugging me. That's my love language, but they're telling me what they're doing. So I'm consciously aware of it. They've
Interesting.
demonstrated it and articulated it, and now it makes sense. And so what I find is that people enter into relationships committed to being exactly who they've always been. And that's the problem. What worked for you while you were single may not work in a committed relationship. And so you have to learn how to negotiate. You have to learn how to merge, if you will, cultures together to create a new culture that works in the household that you're in. And that's why it's critically important. We say this all the time. If you want to be successful in your relationship, you have to become a student of your spouse. In essence, you want to get your PhD in your partner. And so just like you went to school, elementary, college, some graduate schools, and got all types of degrees, what if you put that same energy, effort, and focus into your spouse? How different would your relationship be then?
Wow. So relationships, and maybe you can talk a little bit more on this, but what I believe are so like crucial to your success as a man or a woman that we don't realize how dimensionalized it's going to be, right? For example, I have a lot of friends who are super successful. I mean, I have like actually a good friend of mine brings me up. He's single and he has like his crypto wallet's like 9 figures. Yeah,
Wow.
he actually knows JD Vance. I was actually gonna go on a dinner with him, but I wasn't available. But his like worldview was like it's so skewed up when it comes to the relationship side of things,
Mm.
and I know he's broken from the inside. So I was just thinking to myself because in the beginning I was just striving for money. I was like, oh, let me just get the money, 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 and then I realized like after talking to him, like he has everything. He doesn't look at the bill. Like he'll eat a $3,000 meal. Like he doesn't care. He
Like
doesn't.
it's nothing.
It's nothing. It's a
Mhm.
number. It's a number on a screen, right? He just swipes his credit card, and but he's not happy though.
Mm.
Like he's not. And like he doesn't admit it, right? Because like whatever ego, I don't know, whatever the case is. But I tried talking to him, and he's like so defensive about like, oh yeah, single is the best thing ever. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm not here to like impose my views on it, but I can see there's something off. Like you can feel that emotional kind of like disconnect between who he is. Um, so I feel like relationships, especially like with a spouse, are
Mhm.
so important to your business success, financial health, like happiness, right? I feel like it's like the color of life.
Well, it's interestingly, there was a book written by, I think, Thomas Stanley, The Millionaire Mind.
Mhm.
The first book was The Millionaire Next Door. And in that book, he said 90% of a person's success or failure is determined by who they select as a mate. Okay. Which is huge because if you marry the right one, it can do so much for your business. You marry the wrong one, you're in trouble. Because what we have found is that when people struggle in their marriage, it impacts their business.
Mhm.
When people struggle in their business, it impacts their marriage. But here you have a friend who's already successful, but he's successfully single. And so his personal life, that's where he struggles the most, right? And so most people will focus on, well, I need to find the right one. But the key is becoming the right one. Because if you become the right one, you draw certain types of people into your life based upon who you are internally. Does that make sense? We're all
Absolutely.
magnets.
We're all magnets. We repel and then we also attract.
Absolutely. So we have always said that the key to your relational restoration or marital restoration is your personal transformation.
Mm.
When you become the best version of you, you begin to draw people to you on the level that you're on. Now, of course, people who are attractive physically, emotionally, spiritually, they're going to draw all types of people, but the people that you resonate with the most, the connections, are going to be based upon what's happening within you. Because ultimately, there are three relationships we all have. There's the relationship we have with our creator, that's our vertical relationship. Then there's the relationship we have with ourselves, that's our internal relationship. And then the relationship that we have with others, our horizontal relationships. But we've placed so much focus on these horizontal relationships and not enough focus on the internal
Mhm.
vertical one. And so if this is not in order, this can't be in order. And so this is why there's an order and a sequence to what your focus should be in order to attract the right ones into your life.
Why is it that we only focus on the horizontal relationships? Is it a matter of that we feel like we need to be part of a tribe? And if we don't please other people, if we don't feel like we fit in, they may kick us out. And that is our evolutionary kind of, old brain kicking in, where it's like, oh, if I'm not liked and loved by these other people, then I might be kicked out of the tribe. I might starve to death and stuff like that, right? Because the human brain hasn't changed.
Mhm.
Like 50,000 years, it's been like 1%. So is it a matter of that, or is it a matter of like people don't have self-love? They do not love themselves. They don't have self-confidence. And they don't even not sometimes, I think most of the time, they don't even know that they have these issues, right? So which is why they're so like focused on other people trying to please them. And at the end, they're like left empty.
I think all of those things you just mentioned are definitely plausible, but I think that the human condition is we're spiritual beings housed in a physical body and we possess a soul.
Mm.
And I think most of us identify more with our physical selves, our external selves, than our internal selves. So for me to focus on an external relationship with another person, that's more comfortable. I get that more. Most people aren't in touch with themselves. They're not in touch with their spiritual side, their emotional side. They don't know who they are. But what they have done is taken on ideas and labels and stigmas that society has placed on us. And we operate and function based upon an external form of identity. So it's easier to externally connect with someone else than it is to connect with myself. But then that's a part of the problem because if I'm not connected to me emotionally, how can I emotionally connect with a spouse? How can I have compassion for someone else if I'm not in touch with my own inner self? And so the personal growth, what you do working on yourself when you're alone in your own silo by yourself is so critically important in your journey to interpersonal
Can you
relationships.
go deeper on connecting with your own emotional self? Again, I can only speak from my personal experience in Pakistan and stuff. There's no such thing as emotions. It's like
Mm.
it doesn't exist, right? It's just like locked in. Sometimes it's like you're talking to a stone. That's what it feels like, right? But I realize like, oh man, there's a lot more to life than just being super logical and super boxed in. Because if you think about it, what do we become? Computer engineer, IT professional,
Yeah.
and a doctor.
Mhm.
Those are the three different roles. That's all we have. What are all those super logical based, right? But there's a deeper level, like you said, connecting with yourself emotionally. So number one, like how do you even like what do you do like to actually try to do that?
Well, first of all, you have to detach yourself from every form of identity that you have. This is why meditation is important. This is why disconnecting from the outside world, unplugging is important. Even if you look at the life of Christ, he spent time in the mountains, in the wilderness, by the water, separate amongst the elements, amongst nature, because it allowed him to get in connection with himself and his creator God, right? And that's something that we all have to do. And we live in a society where we're constantly on the go. There's technology, there's so many things that are happening, there's so many roles and functions and duties and obligations that we are involved in that we don't take the time to just be disconnected from all of those roles to get to know who we are. And so sometimes that could be going on a silent retreat, right? We know many
Mhm.
people have done that. Maybe it's getting in contact with your creator through your faith tradition, right? So for me, I'm a Christian. So having time in meditation, reading the word and prayer, and understanding who I am through him helps me to understand me. But then on a practical side, right? Sometimes it's inviting people into your life who have a front row seat to who you are because we all have blind spots, right? And so, for instance, a spouse, a close friend, someone in your private world can see you in 360. They can see you in 3D. And sometimes they can reveal things about you that you didn't even know about yourself. And having the right voices in your ear can help you gain a deeper awareness of who you are, your strengths and your weaknesses, the things that you're aware of, the things that you are not. And being intentional in that space allows you to have a deeper dive into self.
What are some of the most common kind of hindrances or things that people haven't worked on internally within themselves? What are some of those things that
Mm.
actually like maybe behaviors or yeah, what does that materialize like?
Well, one of my mentors taught me something very powerful. He said, every human being on the planet Earth struggles with two things: fear
Mm,
and insecurity, right? Now, interestingly enough, you have very successful people, and then you have those who would be considered failures, let's just say. Well, what's the difference if they both struggle with the same thing? Well, people who have failed, if you will, are those who are waiting for the fear to be removed. They're waiting to overcome the insecurity before they move forward. Where successful people say, in spite of my fear, irregardless of my insecurities, I will move forward. So let's just assume that fears and insecurities never go away. It's a part of the human condition. It's knowing how to deal with it. It's knowing how to overcome it. It's knowing how to use that shadow side as something that fuels you rather than something that traps you, stifles you, and hinders you. And that's been the difference. But being self-aware of what your fears actually are and your insecurities actually are critically important because you may continue to self-sabotage in your own ignorance because you're not fully aware of self. But knowing self at least gives you insight. And so, in order to experience self actualization, you must first have self awareness. Once I know, I can then do something with what I know and then bring other people and systems and tools and resources into my life that helps me to better manage and overcome things that I'm struggling with internally until those things are removed.
mm, interesting. Yeah, that was a lot. Just soaking it in. Interesting. Okay. And then, of course, if people don't do that, they end up attracting wrong relationships, which means less money, less health, less everything,
Yep.
right? Like versus if they do the work, the internal work, they can actually attract better things in their life.
At the end of the day, you are the lowest common denominator in every situation, in every relationship, in every circumstance that you are in. And sometimes we think if we just change our environment, I
Mhm.
know people who have said, you know what, I got to leave this state, I got to go somewhere else.
So true.
I need a different environment, a different setting, and things will be different. But guess what? You take you everywhere you go. And so whatever is in you, you bring with you, and you begin to manifest outwardly what you're struggling with internally. Like your world, your outer world is nothing more than a mirror reflection of what's going on internally. And I remember having a good friend of mine that would just keep it real with me because there was a season of my life where everything was going wrong. I mean, everything. And he would say simply, Hassani, it's you. It's your fault. And I'm like, what do you mean it's my
Yeah.
fault? I had nothing to do with this. I had nothing to do with that. It is you, Hassani. And until you realize that you are the problem, you will then realize that you're the solution, that the solution is in you, just like the problem's in you. And it was the hardest lesson that I had to learn. It took the longest amount of time for me to finally get it. But once I did get it, it was a game changer. Because I think we point the finger at
Always.
everybody,
Yeah.
not realizing that well, wait a minute, one, two, three fingers pointing right
Correct.
back at us. And so I think when we have that level of self reflection, things begin to shift and
I
change.
completely agree, 100%. I think it's our narcissism, right? We all have narcissism, like
Mhm.
to some level, which is it's how we are here, still here, right? Um, we were able to survive through putting ourselves
Mhm.
first, but I think sometimes we do a little too much on that part, right? We're like, oh, it's the government's, it's Mr. Trump's fault. It's like, all right, like, it's the weather, it's this, it's that. But you're absolutely right. It's like you got to take so much accountability that if a car was to hit you, and even if it was the car's fault, it was my fault. I should have been there.
Exactly.
Right? It's like this delusionally level of
Mhm.
accountability for me, at least I can only speak for myself, that allowed me to like really push past that barrier of trying to blame other external things and bringing all that blame and saying, no, it was me. Everything was me. The moment I was able to do that, I blew up. Like, business blew up. And I was like, wow, it was that easy. All I had to do is just blame myself for everything. Whether something good happens, whether something bad happens, it's all my fault.
My greatest enemy is in a me. And the key to mastery is to master me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the essential lesson that I think that we all have to learn at some point. And in the entrepreneurial journey, to your point, you're blaming everything and everyone, and it's everyone else's fault. And then once you have that moment of truth to realize that nobody's going to fix these problems but me, no one's going to turn these things around but me, that's when things begin to shift and change.
Yeah. And not only you're talking about mainly relationships, but it's also the same in business.
Oh,
It's
for
the
sure.
exact same thing. It's like client didn't pay, my fault. Client paid, my fault. Team member quit, my fault. I got a great team member, everything's my fault. That's it. That's just the nature of the mindset. You know what I realized one thing? I became so much more happier. Like, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Even if something's messed
Yeah.
up, I'm like, amazing. It was all my fault. I can learn from it, right? Or I can just be miserable, pissed off. Like, even small things. Like, for example, yesterday I was supposed to have a podcast session. I had two, actually. The first one, there was like a miscommunication between the email. She thought we didn't send the email. We thought she got it. And she ended up no showing. I bet a normal person in my shoes would be pissed. I was like, you know what I did? There was a guy here and he was checking out the studio. And turns out that he has an agency and he wanted to like get to a big level, something that we've already done before. I was like, dude, you want me to just consult you for free and we can just record it? He was like, yeah. I was like, perfect, cool. Not even a stint of like, oh man, I feel bad about myself, like the insecurity thing that you're talking about. Or what if she don't care? Like, cool. This is what it is. It's what happened. She's not wrong. She never got the email. She thought it was for a different day, whatever. Cool. This is what I have. Just normal day. Just normal day.
So you turn lemons into lemonade.
And then
right?
lemon pie. And then we squeeze. Like, every little thing of the lemon is being used.
That's what innovation and creativity is when you're a leader. And leadership is something that you really have to grow into. And once you have it, you can look at any problem and see the opportunity in any
I completely agree.
yeah.
And you know what's funny? So my sister called me later because my sister's the one who helps with the YouTube stuff. She like posts stuff. She was asking me like, how did the podcast go? And I told her. And she was like, why are you so like relaxed about that? Why are you so nonchalant? Like, nothing happened. She was like, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty cool. Like, and that's pretty sick. I was like, I guess so. But yeah, maybe my 3-year-old version of me would be like, oh my God, the world's ending. She didn't show up and I did this and it's an achievement. I don't care. It's just another day for me. Like, it really is. So I feel like what you're talking about, the insecurity, the fear thing, it's a muscle, right? Like, it's not real. It's just brain chemicals. Like, it's literally just brain chemicals, ping pong, just going inside. Am I going to be that weak to like succumb to my brain chemicals and how I feel? Man, people take they take it for not the whole day, not the week. There's people who don't speak to each other because of the brain chemicals they cannot control for years, if not decades.
Let's pause on that because that is so critically important. Like, I don't care if you're talking business, you're talking relationships, you're talking finances. The game is won or lost right here in the mind. It's all about your mindset. And the fact of the matter is, all of us have a certain way of thinking. We have a thought pattern that we engage in. And if you're constantly negative, you have a negative thought pattern. And so you're only going to see the problem. You're only going to see the limitation and you're only going to see the lack. But based upon your mindset and how you think, you can see opportunities in every single thing. And I tell people all the time, it's mindset that will save your marriage. It's mindset that'll build back this emotional connection between you and your spouse. But many of us have these deeply embedded beliefs about things that govern how we show up at life. And I tell people all the time, I ask the question, what's the first letter in the word belief?
B.
And what's the first letter in the word system?
S.
And most of our thoughts are nothing but BS. And until we remove these beliefs and replace them with new beliefs, everything will continue to remain the same. So really, this is it. This is it right here.
The power of unlearning.
Yes.
People trying to focus too much on learning. What's the new thing? Let's unlearn. The BS that we fed ourselves.
Yes.
Whether that was from parents. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. Like, I don't care. I mean, I'm not saying your parents are bad. They did it for their good intention. They thought that this was the way. And maybe they screwed you up.
And I think what you just said is critical. You have to unlearn first before you can learn. A perfect analogy I give is if you're painting a room a different color, you have to sometimes scrape off the old paint. You got to take it off, right? Put primer on it and then add a new coat. If you put a new coat over an old coat, it's going to distort what that looks like. It's going to impact the texture of the wall. And so there is a process to unlearning and relearning.
Absolutely. It's like people, I go to like seminars and I still do. I don't think I'll ever stop because I'm always a student of life, trying to learn, trying to do better in all areas of my life. And there's so many people out there that I meet, and you can feel the anxiety, you can feel the pressure they have. And if you have a conversation with them, they're just looking, they're hunting. What's the thing? What's the thing that's missing? It's like, let's maybe unlearn, let's like detach some, for the software update. Let's what is it called? Sometimes you wipe all the
Yes.
data,
Yes.
and then let's install the new data. Right. But they're like so like constantly chasing. They're like, oh, what's the thing? What's this thing? It's like, bro, relax.
But what you just said is exactly what couples need to do
Yeah.
relationally. Because to your point, we come from different cultures, different family cultures, which is different than your ethnicity.
I agree.
Right? There's so much that goes into how we do relationships. And we learn we have so many wrong ideas, wrong philosophies that cause such a clash and a collision relationally. And so one of the things that was important for my wife and I when we were dating, we said, listen, why don't we read and learn what it takes to make a great relationship together? We would literally go from book to book to book
Together.
to book and figure it out together because we didn't want the same. Listen, when we looked around us, everybody that we knew was in a broke, busted, and disgusted relationship. Either they had broken up or they were on the verge of divorce or they were suffering from infidelity. There was some major issue and conflict. And we were like, well, what is causing this? And what we realized is that not that it's about this one thing alone, but they didn't have a shared approach to life. They didn't have a shared value system. They didn't have a belief system that they both subscribed to that allowed them to overcome many of the issues and complications that so many people have. And I think that's critically important, creating a culture for your marriage that you both believe in.
Let's go deeper on that, right? Because I know we hinted a little bit before, for example, the 5 things that you talked about, communication, relation, all the stuff that you talked about there. You hinted a little bit about hair as well. Is there a tactical way to kind of like go about like the biggest levers that you can pull all the way down to building an amazing lifelong relationship?
Okay, so tactically and practically, the 2 things that we do that we encourage every single couple, I don't care who you are, where you are. There are 2 days a week that are the most important days of the week, okay? You have your work day and your play day. Now, work is not your 9 to 5 job. It's not your business. It's taking 1 hour a day to work on your relationship, to address the issues, the concerns, to focus on the vision and the future of your marriage or your relationship, and to be consistent in that effort. But then to have your play day, that's your date night. Interestingly enough, people who've been married for a long time, they stopped dating when they stopped dating, which was the first season of their, relationship of those 4 seasons. And having that weekly rhythm where they go from work to play to work to play, they're creating momentum and it's allowing them to move in a forward direction. What we have found out is that most couples don't talk. Oh, we're having internal conversations with ourselves, but we're not having conversations with each other. And if I'm having an internal conversation with myself, guess what? I'm going to answer my own questions. I'm going to make my own assumptions. I'm going to form my own conclusions. And now I'm going to treat you, interact with you based upon my own cognitive bias because I didn't invite you into a conversation for us to get the clarity that we need.
That's where the resentment comes from.
Oh, for sure.
It's not even real.
For
You just
sure.
made it up in your own head, both guys and girls, right?
Oftentimes, the struggles that couples have with each other are based upon internal struggles that we have with ourselves, and we're projecting outwardly. Now, that doesn't absolve our spouse or our partner from whatever issues they may have, because we all have our stuff.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, we're projecting because we're not right within ourselves.
Because we were either scared to share it, or
Sure.
B, we don't know how to communicate that over, right? All these things, that all comes back to the internal, right? Like mastering oneself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. What else for a really good relationship?
What else do you have to do for a good? Well, I think your environment is important.
Mm.
Like there's this phrase that says it takes a village to raise a child, right? But it also takes a community to keep a marriage or a relationship intact. There have been statistics that suggested that you become the sum total of your 5 closest friends. So if your friend group, if everyone's divorcing and breaking up, if everyone's cheating, well, guess who's next in line? You are, because that is the environment that you're in. And peer pressure, listen, it's not Peer pressure doesn't belong to a teenager who's struggling with drugs and alcohol and sex. No, peer pressure is real. There's positive peer pressure and negative peer pressure. And it's not me telling you, you need to cheat on your spouse. You need to take this drink. You need to snort. No, but if you're in an environment long enough, you begin to take on the mindset, the behavior of the environment that you're in. It's just what it is. You become a product of it. And so you have to be very selective who you bring into your world. And so we made sure that we surrounded ourselves with people who were in healthy relationships because through observation, we could see them when they were in a good space, in a bad space. We could see how they went from bad back to good because of how they interacted, how they communicated. And so having a marriage mentor, having friends in your life who are in healthy relationships, all of those things are critically important. Practically, one of the things that I learned a long time ago that I embraced is something called the law of 33.
Hmm.
Have you heard of this?
Absolutely. Talk about it.
33% of the people in your life should be lower than you because those are the ones who are looking up to you. They're inspired by you,
You help them out.
and you're there to mentor them and bring them up to where you are. 33% of the people in your life should be your positive reinforcing peers. They're on the same path, headed in the same direction, but their journey supports you in yours. And then 33% of the people in your life should be 10x where you are. Those are the ones that you're inspired by. Those are the ones that you're trying to reach towards. And if you have them in that proportion, it always keeps you moving in a positive direction. It always keeps your mind right and your perspective clear on what it is that you need to do and where you want to go.
So true. I think a lot of people, in society, it's supposed to be normal. Oh, still be with your friends, with your high school, the high school community and all that. And look, I'm not against that. But at the end of the day, if you have big goals, big dreams, big visions, typically speaking, the
Mhm.
guy who was like the star of the high school, he's going to be like at a Dollar Tree, as a manager, typically
Mhm.
speaking. And it's the quiet ones who really like get to the top, right? So I feel like a lot of people are still so connected with their little community just because they feel comfortable
Mm.
and their hopes and dreams just drift away. Just because that comfort is the biggest drug. It's bigger than
Oh,
cocaine. It's bigger than dopamine. All this, like the iPhone stuff. Comfort is the number one drug. And just like you were, I think, alluding to earlier, death by a thousand cuts. We don't
yes.
even realize what's happening. We have this thing, that thing, this sporting events. I mean, all this stuff is just made to like kind of control your brain and own your brain where you can't even question what's going on in your life.
One thing you said about comfort, which is really powerful, is that we're creatures of comfort,
Mm.
and most of us want to be comfortable. But comfort oftentimes leads to complacency. And for all of your viewers who are interested in transitioning out of a 9 to 5 into, an entrepreneurial space, comfort can no longer exist. You really have to take on the stoic mindset and put yourself voluntarily in discomfort, right? Uncomfortable situations that pull the best out of you. Because change is going to hurt. It's not always going to feel good. It's going to be inconvenient. It's going to be uncomfortable. But those are the things that are necessary to get you to your next level. I remember hearing somebody that I would follow who was a very successful business person. They said, you know what, this year, and it was 2018 at the time, I reached $6 million. And he said, next year I want to go to 8, which means that I have to destroy everything that I did that allowed me to get to 6. Because if I do what I did last year, I'm going to wind up at 6 this year instead of 8. So I've got to tear it down and build it back up or build systems on top of that, which requires change. And that's one of the things that as human beings we resist. But one thing about change, it's inevitable. So I rather be on the front end of it than the back end of it. I rather voluntarily move in the flow of things than engage in resistance and it just beat me up in the process. And so I think change and like it's either going to be complacency or consistency. You have two options. And so when you're consistent and constantly reinventing yourself, then you will elevate to a level that you never thought was possible.
So true. So let's talk a little bit about the average kind of like lifestyle, right? Or when I say average, I mean like the worldly life of where we are.
Mhm.
We have water here. What did we have to do like 50,000 years ago? We have to go to the well, man.
Yeah.
We have to like, because I come from Pakistan, a third world country. I remember when we used to go to the village, man, you got to like really bring the water out. We don't even think. We just drink the water like it's subconscious comfort. We're sitting in this house, it's
Yes.
nice and cool. Outside it might be hot or it might be cold. We don't even remember. We don't even realize that this is existing out there. We want to warm up food, microwave, 30 seconds, done. First, before you got to start up a fire, 45 minutes, go. So if you start to think that everything in your life is designed for comfort, to your point, you are like, isn't that also part of your not community, but also like your environment? You're literally your
Sure.
environment in today's society is making you unsuccessful
Yes.
because everything is on a click of a button.
Yeah.
Everything is boom, done, right? Even like our communication, we met through a entrepreneur house, the community that we have.
Mhm.
We sent a couple messages on WhatsApp, and here we are.
Yeah.
Before, man, we got to like ride horseback, we got to coordinate the times. There
Yeah.
was no mics. You guys weren't watching this. If you start to really, truly vision, like you have this perspective of life where all this is designed for comfort, the food that you eat,
Yeah.
coffee's from Colombia, the food is from Russia, it's from this country, that country. In one meal that you have, it might have like 25 different countries that, different types of people that work for it. You don't even realize this is happening. And then, just like you said, if you want to step into entrepreneurship, it's a whole different world.
is.
You're used to a monthly tranquilizer called a paycheck. Every single month you're getting that paycheck. Now you're gonna hunt. You're on your own.
You know what? I had a close friend who worked for Dun& Bradstreet. And obviously, Dun & Bradstreet, they work with business owners who are looking to extend credit and work on their credit reputation. And what he realized, he came to me, he said, Hassani, a lot of these successful, wealthy people, they don't necessarily have academic success or academic intelligence necessarily. They don't have the most advanced degrees and certifications, but what they have is emotional intelligence. And what he discovered was that because he thought, I need to learn more, I need to know more, I need to get this degree, this is for certification, I don't know enough. And he realized it was the emotional intelligence that was the game changer. And what I've learned, the more I talk to people like you and those within our organization, is that their approach to life is somewhat different. These are individuals who have tested their limits and gone beyond them. These are people who have placed themselves in uncomfortable environments to see what they were made of. These are individuals who embrace challenges so that when real challenges came, they knew how to respond to it. And so I've had to do that throughout the course of my life. And could I say a book on business was the key? Well, it helped significantly. But a book on business attached to fear and insecurity would have kept all that information in that book. But it was when I jumped out of a plane. It's when I went on a 12-hour walk. It's when I did a 30-day water fast, when I did a 100-day juice fast, when I slept on the floor, when I took cold showers, when I kept doing things to intentionally place myself in uncomfortable situations, that it showed me a side of myself that was dormant within me. And once I began to realize who I really was, when I looked at business, when I looked at sales, and when I looked at marketing, I was able to approach it differently because of all of these other things that I intentionally put myself through. And so that is a big lesson for anybody who's looking to make that switch. Comfortability will be the death of you. You have to intentionally place yourself in spaces and places and environments that test you to see what you're made of. And then who you discover you are, bring that into your business and you will excel.
So true. It reminds me of a post I posted last night on my Instagram. And it was a guy who was like beating it was a UFC fight, right? But it was like towards the end. He was just like, they were both going at it and one gets knocked out. And in the caption I wrote, few will ever be fortunate to experience both sides of this, winning and losing. And I got a couple messages. People like, what do you mean by losing? Like, why would you ever want to lose? I'm like, oh, that's the best teacher ever. Is get knocked out. Like fighting as a man specifically, oof, it's the best thing ever. Beating someone up and you also getting beat. It humbles you. It teaches you a side, like you said. You can actually go for longer. And at the end of the day, you're like, wow, nothing happened. You're going to recover a couple of days. You'll be fine. You'll be just A-okay. And then now you have this worldview of perspective that you can go into the world and actually be a warrior.
Yes.
Instead of running away, shying away from problems, right? Because we all have a fight or flight response. But it's like we have to train ourselves to understand, okay, it's happening, right? Look, whatever the case is, something major is going on. Yes, it is happening. Because a lot of times we're just like, in this false belief, oh, it can't be happening to me. I'm the special snowflake. I can't be the one. No, yes, you are. You are the one. This is happening to you. Embrace it, marinate in it. Feel every single emotion. Feel the fear. Feel the happiness. Feel the aggression. Feel it all. Enjoy it all, right? The rain, the sunshine, the thunderstorms. And then you have a plan of action and you execute on that. The more stuff you go through, the 100-day fast that you said, or all the things that you've gone through, it just adds a layer of like,
Yes, it
oh,
does.
I did that. Okay, next time. Because we all have fear, right? I'm very scared many times, but it allows you to still overcome that fear with action just because you've been there, done that, maybe in a different capacity, but you have that internal belief and that internal confidence that you are the best person on this planet to face that
Yeah.
specific thing and not someone else. And that's where you can attract
Mhm.
so many people who are amazing people, and you repel the people who are like the bottom feeders of the world.
Yeah.
And that's how you have an amazing life.
That is, man, you done said something there. That's something that should be reverberated in people's minds again and again and again. Going back to one of the challenges that really showed me who I was, I did a 12-hour journey once, based upon a book called The 12-Hour Walk, guy that would walk for like from one country to another. And I remember I started out at 4 o'clock in the morning and I would end at 4 o'clock and I couldn't stop. And so where I used to live, I mean, you're talking about countryside, dirt roads, like pitch black, no lights,
Really?
and all you could see is lights piercing through the woods and all types of
What country
movement.
was this?
Well, this was in the States
Okay.
when I lived in Atlanta, but I lived in kind of like a rural area of Atlanta. And I remember when I first started off, I heard these sounds and saw these eyes, and I'm like, I am not going down that road. But I said to myself, if I don't do it, then this entire journey is just going to be a waste. So I faced my fear because there's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And as a result of that, it taught me a simple lesson about how to face uncertainty. So now I could take that little life lesson and apply it to business, apply it to relationship, apply it to finances, to bring in a level of intelligence. So I'm operating from an intelligent space, not an emotional space. And those are the benefits of doing all of these things that we're talking about. These are the lessons that people need to learn.
So true. And it shows, if you don't do this, it shows up in everything. Like you said, was it 77? What percentage of body language that we?
73%.
73% is in the
Yes.
body language. People just
70 body language, and then so what is it? It's 70% in body language, 23% in
Tonality.
tone.
Yeah.
So it's 97 total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 70%, 23%, it's called subcommunication, right? It's
Yes.
like is internal. Now, if you don't do these things, it shows up there. And a lot of times we think we can just either hide it, hide it. We don't have to show the world. Oh, it shows up in every place. You can see through someone, what they've been through just on their face. I mean, there's a way to read faces, even like literally the face. There's a way to see if someone's, someone who holds a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. You can literally see the lines on where these things are, right? Your body language. People slouch. They can't look you in the eye. They're so afraid. Their tonality. They can't speak from the heart. Most people,
Yeah.
90%, they can't speak
Yeah.
from the heart. Why is it like a lot of people who watch my videos, they're like, oh my God, Zarar, you're a very good speaker. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's only because I've been through XYZ things that I've been able to speak from the heart and not be afraid of these. So I'm not a good speaker. I've never taken a single course, yet people pay me millions of dollars just because they say, oh, I speak good. No, I hate to break it to you. I've never taken a single course in my life, but I've been through things, right? And my only wish is, I wish I went through even harder stuff. Because I know where I am, and honestly speaking, to the level that I want to be, I'm nowhere near that. I think I'm too soft. Like, I think I need better mentors. I need to go through even more hard stuff, because the goals and the vision that I have for myself is extreme. And just like you said, purposely throwing yourself in those situations so it's just 1% better, 1% better, and it's the law of compound, right? Like compounding effect.
Yeah.
It'll only get you better in all areas of your life.
You speak from authenticity.
Correct.
You speak from conviction because you've gone through. You've had ups and downs and challenges and struggles and overcome them. This is why, and this is no shade, but if I had to make a choice, do I go to business school or do I get a business mentor? I would choose a business mentor because I'm getting theory, right, and lessons. And at this time, that information could be so old, things are changing so fast. But to be in the thick of it and have to deal with the failures and the no's and the rejections and having to go through that journey, man, I will come out on the other side of that so much more advanced, so much more ready to take on the world than simply having a degree or a certification. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You should get it all. But I'm just saying there's something to that experiential process.
So true. I remember my MMA coach in Pakistan. I hired him. And at the time I had made millions actually already. I was young. I was like 22 years old maybe. So I had an ego, right? And he saw that in me. So he was like, "Cool." He took the money. It was quite a big fee, of course, for in Pakistan. But he was one of the best MMA trainers. He was like, "Cool, all right, so I'm gonna leave now." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I just took your money. What are you gonna do about it?" I was like,
Wow.
"Well, you have to like teach me." He's like, "Okay, if I don't, what are you gonna do?" He just sat there waiting. I was like, "Well, I mean, like," he's like, "You gonna try to beat me up?" He's like, "I'll kill you." And he's like, "Lesson number one: class is in session. Class is in session."
Love it.
Because I had all these demands. I was like, "Yeah, do this, do that, do that," and then I was like, "Whoa, he's so right." Then the next thing, for 6 weeks, this guy just made me do a jab. Just one jab. I was like, "Dude, let me, have me do the flying kicks and all that." He's like, "Yeah, we'll get to all that." 6 weeks, just the jab. And he would make me run. So I told him the things that I didn't want to do. That's exactly what we did for 6 weeks. Every 5 days a week, he would come. 5 days a week, that's all we did. And that humbled me to levels. That was, in my opinion, that was the best training or any sort of mentorship that I've ever been through in my life. Even though internally I hated him, but I realized, no, I hate myself. I hate the weaker version of myself, and he's 100% correct on everything that he did and he said. And he made me an absolute monster in a good way. Just the jab. That's it. That's it.
What I love about that story is that, for a lot of us who have been very successful, we do have ego. And oftentimes we
We
bring
need
that.
it to
We
some
need
level.
it,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like a two-sided coin, right?
Yeah.
It serves us in one space, but it's devastating in another because you can overestimate your ability to perform and to be
So
in
true.
spaces that you're uncomfortable or unfamiliar with, and you learn really quick. Wait a minute, I'm not who I thought I was in this
You don't have the
space.
golden touch. None of us do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. But what's the worst that can happen? At the end of the day, we're all going to die, right? So, and that's where the faith comes in. Maybe my faith is to a level where even if I die and it's part of life and it is what it is, it's just,
One of my favorite quotes, and I'm sure you've heard it before, and every time I think about it, it just hits me hard. That hell on earth is on the last day of your life, meeting the person that you were supposed to become. And when you really think about that, man, imagine the person, they look somewhat like you, this familiarity, but their decisions and the path that they were on led them to a place that you didn't get to. And now you're living in regret, as you say, right? On that deathbed, living in regret because of this is what you could have accomplished, what you could have had in your relationship, what you could have had in your business. But because of your fear, your insecurity, your excuses, your finger pointing, all the things that you allowed to get in the way, it just didn't happen. So isn't it worth just doing it? And taking a chance to see where you lead?
what's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that can happen?
You lose all your money. Okay. You can't take it with you. Can you take your money with you when you die?
Yeah.
No. Okay. So what? It's just cotton and paper, man. You'll get it back.
Yeah.
People are so scared. They're so like on the edge. Oh, I don't know. So what?
Yeah.
So what, dude? It's going to be okay. Until you're on your deathbed and you're like, I married the wrong spouse. It's one of the biggest regrets people have. I had the career that I went into. I went into that because of peer pressure from my parents. And I never wanted to be an accountant, but that was my life. And what we're trying to do here, guys, the reason why we have podcasts like this is to save you from you having these thoughts on your deathbed. Then you may not even know what we're doing here. But if you genuinely try to truly understand, that's why we try to bring amazing people here in all walks of life, business, health, relationships, everything, for you to learn even maybe one thing here today. Even if you learn one thing here today, I hope, both of our hopes is that it's for the betterment of your life. That's why we do these.
Absolutely, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Well, thank you very much for coming to the show.
Appreciate you, man.